The Social Network is a 2010 American drama film directed by David Fincher and written by Aaron Sorkin. Adapted from Ben Mesrick's 2009 book The Accidental Billionaires, The Founding of Facebook, A Tale of Sex, Money, Genius, and Betrayal, the film portrays the founding of social networking website Facebook and the resulting lawsuits. It stars Jesse Eisenberg as founder Mark Zuckerberg, along with Andrew Garfield as Eduardo Saverin and Justin Timberlake as Sean Parker, the other principals involved in the website's creation. Neither Zuckerberg nor any other Facebook staff were involved with the project, although Saverin was a consultant for Mesrick's book. The film was released in the United States by Columbia Pictures on October 1, 2010. The film received widespread acclaim, with critics praising it for its screenplay, editing, score, acting and direction. However, some people, including Zuckerberg himself, criticized the film for what they said were its many inaccuracies. The Social Network appeared on 78 critics' top 10 lists for 2010. Of those critics, 22 had the film in their number one spot. Rolling Stone's Peter Travers said The Social Network is the movie of the year. But Fincher and Sorkin triumph by taking it further. Lacing their scathing wit with an aching sadness, they define the dark irony of the past decade. It was also Roger Ebert's selection for the best film of the year. At the 83rd Academy Awards, it received 8 nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor, and won 3 for Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, and Best Film Editing. At the 68th Golden Globe Awards, the film won Best Motion Picture Eurodrama, Best Director, Best Screenplay, and Best Original Score. Plot: in late 2003, 19-year-old Harvard University student Mark Zuckerberg is dumped by his girlfriend Erica Albright. After returning to his dorm, Zuckerberg insults Erica on his LiveJournal blog and creates an on-campus website called FaceMash, which allows users to rate the attractiveness of female students and uses pilfered photographs. He receives 6 months of academic probation after traffic to the site crashes parts of Harvard's network. FaceMash's popularity attracts the attention of Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss and their business partner Divya Narendra, which leads to Zuckerberg working on their dating website called Harvard Connection. Zuckerberg approaches his friend Eduardo Saverin with an idea for what he calls The Facebook, an online social networking website exclusive to Harvard University students. Saverin provides $1,000 seed funding, and the site becomes popular throughout the student body. When they learn of The Facebook, the Winklevoss twins and Narendra believe Zuckerberg has stolen their idea, while also stalling on developing their own website. They raise their complaint with Harvard President Larry Summers, who is dismissive and sees no potential value in either a disciplinary action or in the Facebook website itself. Saverin and Zuckerberg meet fellow student Christy Lee, who asks them to Facebook me, a phrase which impresses both of them. As the Facebook grows in popularity, Zuckerberg extends the network to Yale University, Columbia University and Stanford University. Lee arranges for Saverin and Zuckerberg to meet Napster co-founder Sean Parker, who presents a vision for the company very similar to that of Zuckerberg. He also suggests dropping the from the Facebook. At Parker's suggestion, the company moves to Palo Alto, with Saverin remaining in New York seeking advertising support. After Parker promises to expand Facebook to 2 continents, Zuckerberg invites him to live at the house he is using as the company headquarters. While competing in the Henley Royal Regatta for Harvard, the Winklevoss twins discover that Facebook has expanded to Oxford, Cambridge and LSE, and they decide to sue the company for theft of intellectual property. Meanwhile, Saverin objects to Parker making business decisions for Facebook and freezes the company's bank account in the resulting dispute. He later relents when Zuckerberg reveals that they have secured $500,000 from angel investor Peter Thiel. However, Saverin confronts Mark and Sean when he discovers that the new investment deal allows his share of Facebook to be diluted from 34% to 0.03%, while maintaining the ownership percentage of all other parties. His name removed from the masthead as co-founder, Saverin vows to sue Mark for all the company's shares before being ejected from the building. Later, a cocaine possession incident involving Sean, and his attempt to place the blame on Saverin finally convinces Mark to cut ties with him. The entire story is intercut with scenes from depositions taken in lawsuits against Zuckerberg and Facebook, one filed by the Winklevoss twins, the other by Saverin. The Winklevoss twins claim that Zuckerberg stole their idea, while Saverin claims his shares of Facebook were unfairly diluted when the company was incorporated. At the end, Marilyn Delpy, a junior lawyer for the defense, informs Zuckerberg that they will settle with Saverin, since the sordid details of Facebook's founding and Zuckerberg's own callous attitude will make him highly unsympathetic to a jury. After everyone leaves, he sends a friend request to Erica Albright on Facebook, and refreshes the page every few seconds waiting for a response. An epilogue reveals the following information: Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss received a settlement of $65 million, signed a non-disclosure agreement, and rode in the 2008 Beijing Olympics, placing sixth. Eduardo Saverin received a settlement of an unknown amount and his name was restored to the Facebook masthead as a co-founder of Facebook. The website has over 500 million members in 207 countries and is valued at $25 billion. And Mark Zuckerberg is the world's youngest billionaire. Cast: Jesse Eisenberg as Mark Zuckerberg, Andrew Garfield as Eduardo Saverin, Justin Timberlake as Sean Parker, Amy Umar as Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, Max Minghella as Divine Arendra, Brenda Song as Christy Lee, Rashida Jones as Marilyn Delpy, Steve Sayers as Bill Gates, John Jays as S.Y., David Selby as Gage, Denise Grayson as Gretchen, Douglas Urbanski as Larry Summers, Rooney Mara as Erica Albright, Joseph Mazzello as Dustin Skorvitz, Dustin Fitzsimmons as the Phoenix SK Club president, Wallace Langham as Peter Thiel, Dakota Johnson as Amelia Ritter, Melise Zhao as Alice Control, Trevor Wright as Josh Thompson, Shelby Young as Casey, Aaron Sorkin as ad executive, production, screenplay, screenwriter Aaron Sorkin said, "What attracted me to a film project had nothing to do with Facebook. The invention itself is as modern as it gets, but the story is as old as storytelling. The themes of friendship, loyalty, jealousy, class and power. I got a 14-page book proposal that Ben Mesrick had written for his publisher for a book he was going to call The Accidental Billionaires. The publisher was simultaneously shopping it around for a film sale. That's how it wound up in my hands. I was reading it and somewhere on page 3 I said yes. It was the fastest I said yes to anything. But Ben hadn't written the book yet, and I assumed that Sony was going to want me to wait for Ben to write the book, and I would start a year from now. They wanted me to start right away. Ben and I were kind of doing our research at the same time, sort of along parallel lines. However, according to Sorkin, Mesrick did not send him material from his book as he wrote it. 2 or 3 times we'd get together. I'd go to Boston, or we'd meet in New York and kind of compare notes and share information, but I didn't see the book until he was done with it. By the time I saw the book, I was probably 80% done with the screenplay." Sorkin elaborated. "There's a lot of available research, and I also did a lot of first-person research with a number of the people that were involved in the story. I can't go too deeply into that because most of the people did it on the condition of anonymity, but what I found was that 2 lawsuits were brought against Facebook at roughly the same time, that the defendant, plaintiffs, witnesses all came into a deposition room and swore under oath, and 3 different versions of the story were told. Instead of choosing one and deciding that's the truest one or choosing one and deciding that's the juiciest one, I decided to dramatize the idea that there were 3 different versions of the story being told. That's how I came up with the structure of the deposition room." Casting began in early August 2009, and open auditions were held in various states. Jesse Eisenberg was first announced to be attached to the project in September 2009. Several days later, Justin Timberlake and Andrew Garfield were confirmed to portray the roles of Sean Parker and Eduardo Saverin, respectively. In October 2009, Brenda Song, Rooney Mara, Amy Umar, Shelby Young, and Josh Pence were cast. Max Minghella and Dakota Johnson were also confirmed to star in the film. In a 2009 interview with the Baltimore Sun, Eisenberg said, "Even though I've gotten to be in some wonderful movies, this character seems so much more overtly insensitive in so many ways that seem more real to me in the best way. I don't often get cast as insensitive people, so it feels very comfortable, fresh and exciting, as if you never have to worry about the audience. Not that I worry about the audience anyway, it should be just the furthest thing from your mind. The Social Network is the biggest relief I've ever had in a movie." Filming, principal photography began in October 2009 in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Scenes were filmed around the campuses of two Massachusetts prep schools, Phillips Academy and Milton Academy. Additional scenes were filmed on the campus of Wheelock College, which was set up to be Harvard's campus, which caused significant physical damage to the campus. Filming took place on the Keyser and Wyman quadrangles in the Homewood campus of Johns Hopkins University from November 2 to 4, which also doubled for Harvard in the film. The first scene in the film, where Zuckerberg is with his girlfriend, took 99 takes to finish. The film was shot on the Red One digital cinema camera at 4K resolution. The rowing scenes with the Winklevoss brothers were filmed at Community Rowing Incorporated in Newton, Massachusetts and at the Henley Royal Regatta. Although a significant portion of the latter half of the film is set in Silicon Valley, the filmmakers opted to shoot those scenes in Los Angeles and Pasadena. Miniature faking process was used in a sequence showing a rowing event at the Henley Royal Regatta. Armie Hammer, who portrayed the Winklevoss twins, acted alongside body double Josh Pence while his scenes were filmed. His face was later digitally grafted onto Pence's face during post-production, while other scenes used split-screen photography. Pence was concerned about having no face time during the role, but after consideration thought of the role as a no-brainer. He also appears in a cameo role elsewhere in the film. Hammer states that director David Fincher likes to push himself and likes to push technology, and is one of the most technologically minded guys I've ever seen. This included sending the actors to twin boot camp for 10 months to learn everything about the Winklevosses. Rowing production. Community Rowing Incorporated held a casting call and a tryout for 20 rowing extras. Some were graduates from Harvard, Northeastern University, Boston University, George Washington University, and Trinity College, as well as local club rowers from Union Boat Club and Riverside Boat Club. None of the cast rowing extras for the Henley Royal Regatta racing scene appeared in the film. Filming for the race was originally planned to take place in Los Angeles, but Fincher decided to film in New England during production. David Fincher hired Loyola Marymount coach Dawn Reagan to help train Josh Pence and Armie Hammer. While Hammer was new to the sport, Pence rowed previously at Dartmouth College. The extras in pairs for the Charles River scene were cast as follows: Tom Ostin and Joe Carroll, Henry Roosevelt and Teddy Schreck, Tyler Williamson and Matt Webb, Perrin Hamilton and Steve Barkick, Lucas Abed and Jim Bailey. The indoor rowing scene was filmed at Boston University's indoor rowing tanks. All of BU's blue walls in the scene were repainted to Harvard's crimson color for filming. Dan Boyne was the official rowing consultant for the film both in the US and the UK. Soundtrack. On June 1, 2010, it was announced that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross would score the film. The soundtrack was released September 28 in various formats under the Null Corporation label. Leading up to the release of the soundtrack, a free 5-track EP was made available for download. The White Stripes song Ball and Biscuit can be heard in the opening of the film, and the Beatles song Baby, You're a Rich Man concludes the film. Neither song appears on the soundtrack. Reznor and Ross won the award for Best Original Score at the 2011 Golden Globe Awards, as well as the 2011 Academy Award for Best Original Score. The film itself contains 18 songs, some of which are not found on the soundtrack. These include songs from the Beatles, Bob Marley, Super Furry Animals, 10cc, Gluecifer, Dead Kennedys, and the White Stripes. The background song used in the club scene is performed by Dennis DeLarte, and is called Sound of Violence. It does not appear on the soundtrack. Release, promotion. The first theatrical poster was released on June 18, 2010. The film's first teaser trailer was released on June 25, 2010. The second teaser was released on July 8. The full-length theatrical trailer debuted on July 16, 2010, which plays an edited version of the song Creep, originally by Radiohead, covered by the Belgian choir group Scala and Cole-Acne Brothers. The trailer was then shown in theaters. Prior to the film's inception, Dinner for Schmucks, Salt, Easier, The Virginity Hit, and The Other Guys. The theatrical trailer, put together by Mark Woolen and Associates, won the Grand Key Art Award at the 2011 Key Art Awards, sponsored by The Hollywood Reporter, and was also featured on the Film Informant's Perfect 10 trailers in 2010. Response by the principals. The script was leaked online in July 2009. In November 2009, executive producer Kevin Spacey said, "The Social Network is probably going to be a lot funnier than people might expect it to be." The Cardinal Courier stated that the film was about greed, obsession, unpredictability and sex, and asked, although there are over 500 million Facebook users, does this mean Facebook can become a profitable blockbuster movie? At the D8 conference hosted by All Things Digital on June 2, 2010, host Kara Swisher told Zuckerberg she knew he was not happy with The Social Network being based on him, to which he replied, "I just wished that nobody made a movie of me while I was still alive." Zuckerberg stated to Oprah Winfrey that the drama and partying of the film is mostly fiction, explaining, "This is my life, so I know it's not so dramatic," and that he spent most of the past 6 years focusing, working hard, and coding Facebook. Speaking to an audience at Stanford University, Zuckerberg stated that the film portrayed his motivations for creating Facebook inaccurately. Instead of an effort to get girls, he says he created the site because he enjoys building things. However, he added that the film accurately depicted his real-life wardrobe, saying, "It's interesting the stuff that they focused on getting right, like every single shirt and fleece they had in that movie is actually a shirt or fleece that I own." Facebook co-founder Dustin Moskovitz called the film a dramatization of history. "It is interesting to see my past rewritten in a way that emphasizes things that didn't matter, and leaves out things that really did." According to Moskovitz, "A lot of exciting things happened in 2004, but mostly we just worked a lot and stressed out about things. The version in the trailer seems a lot more exciting, so I'm just going to choose to remember that we drank ourselves silly and had a lot of sex with co-eds." The plot of the book script unabashedly attacked Zuckerberg, but I actually felt like a lot of his positive qualities come out truthfully in the trailer. At the end of the day, they cannot help but portray him as the driven, forward-thinking genius that he is. Co-founder Eduardo Saverin said of the film, "The movie was clearly intended to be entertainment and not a fact-based documentary." Sorkin has stated that, "I don't want my fidelity to be to the truth. I want it to be to storytelling. What is the big deal about accuracy purely for accuracy's sake, and can we not have the true be the enemy of the good?" Journalist Jeff Jarvis acknowledged the film was well crafted, but called it the anti-social movie, objecting to Sorkin's decision to change various events and characters for dramatic effect, and dismissing it as the story that those who resist the change society is undergoing want to see. Technology broadcaster Leo Laporte concurred, calling the film anti-geek and misogynistic. Sorkin responded to these allegations by saying, "I was writing about a very angry and deeply misogynistic group of people." Andrew Clark of The Guardian wrote that there's something insidious about this genre of docudrama scriptwriting, wondering if a 26-year-old businessman really deserves to have his name dragged through the mud in a murky mixture of fact and imagination for the general entertainment of the movie-viewing public. Clark added, "I'm not sure whether Mark Zuckerberg is a punk, a genius or both. But I won't be seeing The Social Network to find out." Several noteworthy tech journalists and bloggers voiced their opinions of how the film portrays its real-life characters. Mashable founder and CEO Pete Cashmore, blogging for CNN, said, "If the Facebook founder, Zuckerberg, is concerned about being represented as anything but a genius with an industrious work ethic, he can breathe a sigh of relief." Jessie Hempel, a technology writer for Fortune who says she's known Zuckerberg for a long time, wrote of the film, The real-life Zuckerberg was maniacally focused on building a website that could potentially connect everyone on the planet. By contrast, in the film he seems more obsessed with achieving the largesse that bad boy Sean Parker, an original Napster founder, portrays when he arrives to meet Zuckerberg at a New York restaurant. Harvard Law School professor Lawrence Lessig wrote in The New Republic that Sorkin's screenplay does not acknowledge the real villain of the story. The total and absolute absurdity of the world where the engines of a federal lawsuit get cranked up to adjudicate the hurt feelings of entitled Harvard undergraduates is completely missed by Sorkin. We can't know enough from the film to know whether there was actually any substantial legal claim here. Sorkin has been upfront about the fact that there are fabrications aplenty lacing the story. But from the story as told, we certainly know enough to know that any legal system that would allow these kids to extort $65 million from the most successful business this century should be ashamed of itself. Did Zuckerberg breach his contract? Maybe, for which the damages are more like $650, not $65 million. Did he steal a trade secret? Absolutely not. Did he steal any other property? Absolutely not. The code for Facebook was his, and the idea of a social network is not a patent. It wasn't justice that gave the twins $65 million. It was the fear of a random and inefficient system of law. That system is a tax on innovation and creativity. The tax is the real villain here, not the innovator it burdened. In an onstage discussion with the Huffington Post co-founder Arianna Huffington, during Advertising Week 2010 in New York, Facebook's chief operating officer Sheryl Sandberg said she had seen the film and it was very Hollywood, and mainly fiction. In real life, Zuckerberg was just sitting around with his friends in front of his computer, ordering pizza, she declared. Who wants to go see that for 2 hours? Divine Narendra said that he was initially surprised to see himself portrayed by the non-Indian actor Max Minghella, but also admitted that the actor did a good job in pushing the dialogue forward and creating a sense of urgency in what was a very frustrating period. Box office. During its opening weekend in the United States, the film debuted at number 1, grossing $22.4 million in 2,771 theaters. The film retained the top spot in its second weekend, dropping only 31.2%, breaking Inception's 32.0% record as the smallest second weekend drop for any number 1 film of 2010, while being the third smallest overall behind Secretariat's 25.1% drop and Tooth Fairy's 28.6% drop. As of August 19, 2011, the film has grossed $96,962,694 in the United States and $127,957,621 elsewhere, for a worldwide total of $224,920,315. Home media. The Social Network was released on DVD and Blu-ray January 11, 2011. In its first week of release, DVD sales totaled $13,470,305 and it was the number 1 sold DVD of the week. The DVD includes an audio commentary with director David Fincher, and a second commentary with writer Aaron Sorkin and the cast. The Blu-ray and 2-disc DVD releases include the commentaries, along with a feature-length documentary, How Did They Ever Make a Movie of Facebook? Featurettes, Angus Wall, Kirk Baxter and Ren Klyce on post, Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross and David Fincher on the score, In the Hall of the Mountain King, Reznor's first draft, Sumatran, Jeff Cronenith and David Fincher on the visuals, and a Ruby Sky VIP room, multi-angle scene breakdown feature. Reception. Critical response. The Social Network has received extremely positive reviews from film critics. Review aggregate Rotten Tomatoes reports that 96% of critics have given the film a positive review based on 283 reviews, with an average score of 9/10 and a critical consensus of impeccably scripted, beautifully directed, and filled with fine performances. The Social Network is a riveting, ambitious example of modern filmmaking at its finest. A film also holds a score of 95 based on 42 reviews on Metacritic, indicating universal acclaim, and making it one of the site's highest-rated movies of all time. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times, giving it 4 stars and naming it the best film of the year, wrote, "David Fincher's film has the rare quality of being not only as smart as its brilliant hero, but in the same way. It is cocksure, impatient, cold, exciting and instinctively perceptive." Peter Travers of Rolling Stone gave the film his first full 4-star rating of the year and said, "The Social Network is the movie of the year." But Fincher and Sorkin triumphed by taking it further. Lacing their scathing wit with an aching sadness, they define the dark irony of the past decade. The Harvard Crimson Review called it flawless, and gave it 5 stars. Quentin Tarantino listed The Social Network as one of his favorite 20 movies of the year, second to Toy Story 3. Some reviewers pointed out that the film plays loosely with the facts behind Facebook's founding. Joe Morgenstern in the Wall Street Journal praised the film as exhilarating but noted, the biographical part takes liberties with its subject. Aaron Sorkin based his screenplay on a contentious book, Ben Mesrich's The Accidental Billionaires, so everything that's seen isn't necessarily to be believed. The film won Best Picture from the National Society of Film Critics, the New York Film Critics Circle, the Los Angeles Film Critics Association, and the National Board of Review, making it only the 3rd film in history to sweep the Big Four critics. The film also won the Hollywood Ensemble Award from the Hollywood Awards. The Social Network appeared on 78 critics' top 10 lists for 2010. Of those critics, 22 had the film in their number 1 spot. Top 10 lists. The Social Network appeared on over 70 critics' top 10 lists of the best films of 2010. Over a dozen publications ranked the film first in their lists. First AA Euro Peter Travers, Rolling Stone. First AA Euro Roger Ebert, Chicago Sun-Times. First AA Euro Christy Lemire, Associated Press. First AA Euro Andrea Gwynville, Chicago Reader. First AA Euro Owen Gleiberman, Lisa Schwartzbaum, Entertainment Weekly. First AA Euro Betsy Sharkey, Kenneth Turan, Los Angeles Times. First AA Euro Rene Rodriguez, Miami Herald. First AA Euro Stephen Holden, The New York Times. First AA Euro David Emby, The New Yorker. First AA Euro Now Magazine. First AA Euro Tim Robbie, Telegraph. First AA Euro Joshua Ruthkopf. Time Out New York. First AA Euro Ann Hornaday, Washington Post. First AA Euro Joe Morgenstern, Wall Street Journal. Third AA Euro Richard Roper, richardroper.com. Fifth AA Euro Richard Corliss, Time Magazine, Accolades. The Social Network won the Best Motion Picture Eurodrama Golden Globe at the 68th Golden Globe Awards on January 16, 2011. The film also won the awards for Best Director, Best Screenplay, and Best Original Score, making it the film with the most wins of the night. The film was nominated for 7 British Academy Film Awards, including Best Film, Best Actor in a Leading Role, Best Actor in a Supporting Role, and Rising Star Award won 3 for Best Editing, Adapted Screenplay, and Best Direction on February 13, 2011. The Social Network received nominations for 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Cinematography, Best Director, Best Film Editing, Best Original Score, Best Sound, and Best Adapted Screenplay. It won 3 for Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, and Best Film Editing at the 83rd Academy Awards on February 27, 2011. Emerging Impact. A film has continued to grow in popularity and is now cited as one of the top movies about social media. Bob Lofsetz has stated that, watching this movie makes you want to run from the theater, grab your laptop and build your own empire. Lofsetz observed that The Social Network has helped fuel an emerging perception that each eyes have become the new rock stars. This has led Dave Knox to comment that, 15 years from now we might just look back and realize this movie inspired our next great generation of entrepreneurs. Since its release, The Social Network has inspired people to change the world through startups in social media. After seeing the movie, Mark Zuckerberg himself was quoted as saying he's interested to see what effect The Social Network has on entrepreneurship. noting that he gets lots of messages from people who claim that they have been very much inspired to start their own company. Facebook co-founder Eduardo Saverin echoed similar sentiments, stating that the film may inspire or countless others to create and take that leap to start a new business. In one such instance, the co-founders of Wall Street magnate confirmed that they were inspired to create the fantasy trading community after watching The Social Network. The film unregistered trademark's impact on Hollywood is also apparent. The Social Network director David Fincher is currently in talks to helm the upcoming Steve Jobs biopic. As with The Social Network, the script for the Jobs biopic is written by Aaron Sorkin, and reportedly follows the same blueprint. Additionally, the success of The Social Network may soon give rise to another Facebook film, as the company's COO, Sheryl Sandberg, has signed a deal with Sony Pictures Entertainment to develop her new book Lean In, Women, Work and the Will to lead into a movie. See also, the Winklevoss-Chang Group, the alleged partnership between ConnectU and i2Hub, Pirates of Silicon Valley, a 1999 film about the rise of Apple Computer and Microsoft from 1971 to 1997. Jobs, a biographical film about Steve Jobs from 1974 to 2001. References. External links, official website, screenplay, The Social Network at the Internet Movie Database, The Social Network at AllMovie, The Social Network at Box Office Mojo, The Social Network at Rotten Tomatoes, The Social Network at Metacritic.